In the older versions of Excel, working with text was a little challenging. While a lot of functions are available, it was difficult to achieve results as you had to use many of them together to get to your goal. With Microsoft 365, Excel has introduced a lot of functions which makes working with text much simpler. In this video, we will look at one such function which is called TextSplit. TextSplit makes it easy to split your text into smaller parts. We will look at multiple examples, so let's get started with the first one. We have a list of names here and we need to split them into first name and last name. Let's see how we will do this using the function TextSplit. The first example demonstrates the basic use of the function. So let's begin by writing the formula in cell B2. TextSplit. The first parameter is text. Here we will provide the text we want to split. So we will select the cell A2. Then the next parameter is column delimiter. This is the delimiter or set of characters basis which you want to split this text into different columns. Since the name contains a space between first name and last name, we will provide space as the delimiter. To provide space, we will write a pair of double quotes with a space in it. All other parameters that are there are optional and we will see them as we progress through this video. For now, we will close the bracket and we get the result for the first name. The name Amy Smith has been split into two columns. And as I copy the formula, we see all the names have been split into first and last name. Now let's look at another example where you want to provide more than one delimiter. If you see the list of names that we have, the first name is written as Miss Amy Smith. And then we have few names where there is no salutation till we reach row 7. Here we have Mr. Jim Shah. The Mr. is not written properly, the M is in the lowercase. And that is deliberate because I want to show you a functionality. So in addition to space being one of the delimiters, we also have Miss and Mr. as additional delimiters. What we will see now is how do we provide more than one delimiter. Like before, we start writing the formula in cell B2 and we begin by writing TextSplit. First parameter will be the same like we just saw earlier, it will be the cell A2. Now since we don't have just one delimiter, we have three, so we will provide an array of delimiters. To provide an array of values in Excel, we will use a pair of curly brackets. Open curly bracket, and our first delimiter is of course space, which we will write in a pair of double quotes. The second delimiter is miss. So after a comma, in a pair of double quotes we will write miss dot and space. We had a space because we want to get rid of the space before the first name as well. Similarly, we will write the third delimiter. In a pair of double quotes, Mr. dot space. We will write M in uppercase. Though we know that in our example it is in lowercase, but we'll write it in uppercase, which is the proper way of writing it. We can close the curly bracket for the array and regular bracket for the function. And we get our result. We have the first name as Amy and the last name as Smith. Because we had provided both space and miss as delimiters, both of them have been eliminated. Though we've got a result, but the cell B2 is empty. This is because the function returns a blank after removing the first delimiter miss, which is what we see in the cell B2. And to correct that, we will utilize one of the optional parameters. I will start editing the function again. After column delimiter, the next parameter is row delimiter, which we will see shortly. Right now, I'll just put a comma to ignore that. And the next parameter is ignore empty. This is the one we are interested in. It gives you two options, true to ignore empty cells and false to include empty cells. The default value if you don't provide this parameter is false, which means include empty cells, and that's what it is doing right now. As you just saw, in cell B2, we had an empty or a blank value. Now we will provide true where we are telling TextSplit to ignore empty cells. So let's write true and we close the bracket. Now we see that blank has disappeared and we have Amy in cell B2 and Smith in cell C2. And that is what we wanted. Now as we copy the formula for the rest of the cells, it works fine except for row number 7. It shows Mr. with the lower M in cell B7, and then Jim, which is the first name in cell C7, and Shah, which is the last name in cell D7. This tells us one thing, that the delimiters are case sensitive. If you look at the function, we have provided Mr. with the uppercase M. But here in our data, we have the Mr. with the lowercase m. That is why it's not working the way we expect it to. To resolve this, we will use one of the additional optional parameters, which is the match mode. As I press comma, I see the options with match mode. You can provide a 0 for a case sensitive match or 1 for case insensitive match. So in our example, we will write 1 because we want a case insensitive match. Let's write 1 and copy the formula to the rest of the cells. Now we see even for Jimsha, Excel has removed the delimiter Mr. and only the first name and last name are displayed in the cells B7 and C7 respectively. So that's how you provide multiple delimiters, ignore blanks and do case insensitive match. Let's look at another optional parameter, row delimiter. In the cell A10, we have the string which reads as Amy Smith, 30, semicolon, Ravi Singh, 29, semicolon, Max Pilling, 30, and so on. Now from this data, we want to create a table where we have name and age. So Amy Smith, 30 means the name is Amy Smith and the age is 30. Then go to the next row where the name is Ravi Singh and the age is 29 and so on. So let's write that formula in the cell A2. Text split. And for text, we will provide A10 which contains the data. For column delimiter, we will use a comma because the name is Amy Smith, the age is 30 and they are separated by a comma. Then the next parameter is row delimiter, which means what is the delimiter where we can split this entire text into different rows. Now you will see after the name and age details for a person, we have a semicolon. This is the row delimiter because after that we have the details of the next person. So for row delimiter, we will provide the semicolon in double quotes. For now, we don't need the other additional parameters and we'll close the bracket. And we get our result. Now let's look at the last parameter, pad width, which we haven't explored so far. Now in this sheet, we have the same example we just saw. There's one minor difference for Steve Carey. I have removed the age. I have also removed the comma, which separated the name and the age. So let's quickly write the same formula again. And we get an error for Steve Carey's age. This error of course doesn't look nice. So to remove that, we will use the last parameter, pad width. I'll go and edit the formula. I'll put commas to ignore the parameters, ignore empty and match mode. Once I reach pad width, I can now provide what to display in case there is an error. So here I will write the text unknown in a pair of double quotes. This means that whenever there is an error, instead of displaying the error, display the text unknown. As I press enter, I get the result. We don't get the error, instead it shows unknown. So this is how you use the function TEXTSPLIT. I hope this was useful for you. If you'd like to watch more such videos, then please subscribe to our channel so that you can find us easily. Thank you for watching.